This presentation is about The Will to Change, Men, Masculinity, and Love by Bell Hooks. It was published December 30th of 2003, and this is presented and reviewed by Gabriella McGrath. First, I'd like to go into a little bit of why I chose this book in the first place. We had a lot of books to choose from, and I thoroughly looked at reviews and summaries and things of all of the books, but this one stood out a lot to me because of a lot of the reviews that were said by people. There's one in particular by a man talking about how this book touched on so many aspects of his life in terms of his childhood, his time in school, sex and relationships, and friendships that he's had. It allowed him to see old memories in new ways, and it helped him to understand that his feelings of pain, confusion, and shame were a result of the violent circumstances that he was subjected to growing up in this culture. And I think that's a really, really important thing that is talked about a lot in this book, as well as understanding the patriarchy as something that is not only primarily affecting men or women, it affects both. And also discusses how challenging the patriarchy is necessary for not only the liberation of men, but also for everyone. The author of this book is Bell Hooks, but that is simply a pen name. Her actual name is Gloria Jean Watkins. She was born on September 25th, 1952, raised in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and grew up in a segregated community in the South. She grew up to become a very well-renowned American scholar. At the age of 19, she began writing what would become her first full-length book, which was then published in 1981. She studied English literature at Stanford University, and she went on to get her BA, MA, and PhD in the University of Wisconsin and University of California, Santa Cruz. After that, she taught English and Ethnic Studies at the University of South Carolina, African and Afro-American Studies at Yale, Women's Studies at Oberlin College, and English at City College of New York. Her work has helped change people's perspective of Black women. She's a very well-renowned feminist theorist known for her clear-minded and insightful thoughts. She took all of this experience in her life She used all of this personal experience. She used a lot of her personal experience along with research she's done throughout her life to create this book. This book in particular examines the stages of a man's life, from babyhood to boyhood to teenage years and to manhood. She created this book to attempt to love men enough to understand how the patriarchy affects them. Also to understand how their pain can help them transform and challenge the patriarchy. This division has led to a variety of problems in how men manage the relationships they have with others. Often their lack of emotion alters the way they see reality in very problematic ways. And these things cannot simply be solved through societal structural changes, being kind to one another, and just overall expressions of love towards one another. When it comes to talking about even deeper emotions, that is when men have a lot of trouble. Not only trouble between men, but trouble between women and men. Society has instilled a discomfort in talking about these emotions. It is important to note that both men and women are dictated by these rules in society. It is often seen as an unusual situation or something out of the ordinary for a man to speak about his emotions as a woman would, when in reality it is perfectly normal for both to have the same kinds of emotions. But often when these emotions are bottled up, it can create unfortunate situations. Often masculinity and patriarchy is taught through violence. The violence comes from rejecting their emotions, and this makes them cold-blooded and distant. And this repression of emotion often creates a dominant figure. This model frames all relationships as power struggles, that the goal is to dominate those that are weaker than oneself, and to avoid the domination of those that are more powerful than you. It is important to know that violence is not simply physical. Violence can be a matter of the heart as well. Often domination is simply jokes, or putting people down, humiliating, scorning, and excluding others. School is somewhat of a social training for violence, where expressing pain is equal to shamefulness. This ethic stunts the emotional intelligence of boys from a young age. It hardens their hearts. This creates a situation where they are able to dominate others, and others are not able to dominate them. This is shown through typical marital culture, as well as military life. Nowadays, violence is used as a tool of domination. Men tend to be bigger and more muscular than women. This creates dysmorphia in the situation of relationships. Patriarchy plays a role in sociosexuality. Love is often seen as an unobtainable emotion for men because of how much they suppress it. But because of this, sex can often become not about connection, but about releasing their own pain of emotion within them. And that kind of thing can really affect the kind of communication that a man and a woman can have in a relationship. It's important to know that feminist women do not hate men. Often it is more that they feel sorry for men, because they can see how the patriarchy affects them and hurts them. It is important to know that women do not necessarily love better or more than men, but it's just that we find it easier to get in touch with these feelings. So what needs to happen is that men need to start getting in touch with their feelings and not being ashamed of this. The patriarchal society supports the trait that women are supposed to be more emotional than men, so we really need to try and combat that. As well as using sex as an emotional outlet, this is something that both men and women need to discuss and establish when they are in a relationship with one another. It's important for them to learn the art of loving, because this is something very important that is being stunted in the growth of boys and men. In order to overcome these things, men and women need to engage in personal emotional growth and learn from one another and each other's struggles. The way we can continue to learn and grow is to spread the word. Something that I think is very important about this book is that this book is for men and women. It is truly for just anyone who cares about having healthy communication. This is communication between men and women, and even communication between men and men. And it is important to know that this book is written from a feminist perspective. We need to have a healthy feminist vision that embraces feminist masculinity and can renew men in this society. We have to demand equality on their part too. Equality in emotion. They have every right to have the same emotions and desires as women. Feminist teaching is about learning how to love, as well as justice and freedom. With this knowledge, we can foster a better life and society for the future. It is truly up to us to take initiative. We need to educate ourselves and those around us, get in touch with our emotions and the emotions of those around us as well. Connect with others, but in a non-dominating way. We have to come at it with an equal playing ground. We must work together in love and resistance. We owe it to everyone, not just men and not just women, and even trans and queer. This is important for everyone to move forward. It is important to learn to heal and not hate. I'd just like to go over some quick final thoughts that I had about the book. I found Bell Hooks to have an incredibly inspiring, yet humbling way of discussing topics. And I think this is a very important book to learn how to be a proper ally, both for men and women. It is an important reminder that we need to stand together. Because if we don't do anything about it, then this endless cycle will continue. Girls will learn to overvalue what they interpret as love from their emotionally stunted fathers. And then from that, they will get into relationships that they will believe are genuine and true, but in reality, they're settling for whatever attention males are able to give them. And because that would be acceptable to women, then it becomes acceptable to men as well. This slowly turns into men treating women poorly and having misogynistic ways. And then the cycle starts over. So I found this book to be very enlightening and important. I recommend it to all of you. Thank you.